Back in the 70s, there was a gentleman named Herb Adams. He was an engineer for General Motors, and originally he was the originator of the Trans Am package in '69 for the '69 Trans Am, and he continued on to develop more suspension stuff for the Trans Am in the '70s, including the WS6 suspension package back then. He had dreams of developing basically a spec race car that you could buy from the factory with a little bit more advanced suspension package. And he developed 6 cars originally, presented them to GM, called them the Fire Am, and said, hey, this is the package we want to go, to be the next level up. And GM originally liked it, but then there was some lawsuits pending in the 70s with a mother that was suing GM because her daughter had died in a Camaro in a car accident, and said, well, part of the lawsuit was the lawyer was presented that, well, you're selling race cars to kids. And so that kind of put an end to GM making the Fire Am an actual GM product. So Herb left, went on his own, and developed, because he wanted to make this car. So he developed the Fire Am, started selling over-the-counter packages, but he also built his cars that he would race. So his philosophy was you could take his parts, put them on a stock Trans Am, and take it and go racing with it and race competitively. So in 1979, he took his car that he had built, drove it from Michigan down to Florida, and raced it in the 24-hour Daytona. The car lasted about 19 hours before it's had some issues with, I think it was either transmission or engine, but he had some issues with the car. So they packed it up and took it back to Michigan and fixed the issues with it. And later that year, gave it to a couple of gentlemen from, I think it was Car and Driver, and said, here, take the car, drive it in the '79 Cannonball Run. And so they picked it up in Michigan and drove it to New York. On their drive to New York, they had some issues. First issue was they had a tire that failed and shoved itself up into the fender well, and they spent the next day fixing it. They got that repaired. They started driving it some more. Then they had some issues with the carburetor, started to catch on fire every 20 miles or so, and so they had to get that fixed. So they stopped in New Jersey, had the shop put a new carburetor on the car and get it all dialed in, and they were good. They made it to the start line. They missed the driver's meeting. They missed most of the party. It was just starting to happen, and so they got there, I think, around midnight, and then they got a 1:32 a.m. start time, I believe, somewhere in that area. Don't quote me on the exact time, but that was around there, and they made their time, started on their way, and sometime in the morning, early Sunday morning, they had some issues with oil pressure. The oil pressure started dropping, so they realized, well, we either have the engines ready to blow or we have a massive oil leak. Pulled it off, found a gas station that was open, put it up on their lift, and they had a massive oil leak. One of the bolts hold the oil pan on had broken, come loose, and damaged the gasket, and it was just pouring oil out. And Fire Am that Herb Adams built had a unique exhaust system. It was 180 degrees, so it went from one side of the engine to the other, and then out into a 3-inch straight pipe out the side. So it's kind of a NASCAR. I think NASCAR setups were like that back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. There was that style. Today we use H pipes and X pipes, but the 180-degree headers kind of did the same thing. But the problem they had was that in order to take the oil pan off, you had to take the whole thing down. It's all one piece. So you take everything down to get this oil pan off, and that's very time consuming. And so they spent the day fixing that and fixing the oil leak, bolted it all back together again, and the oil leak was still there. So they packed it in, took the trunk lid off the car, flew to California, and went to the finish line with just the trunk lid. I said, where's the car? Well, and they come up with this great story that the car went up in a ball of flame and this is all that was left. Then comes 2019. So in my car, I had been collecting parts for about 15 years, NOS, searching eBay, car forums, finding Herb Adams parts to build my own Fire Am. So I got all the parts, everything I could. The only thing I was missing were seats, which I contacted the company that Herb originally had made the seats for his, and they said, yeah, we can make you seats. So I had seats made. I found I had the roll bar in the car, just like his, the chrome roll bar. I had all the suspension parts. I had some different changes in the brakes, because now we have more modern brakes, but I actually used GM components to put big brakes on the car using all factory GM parts because I couldn't find his original style brakes that he had used. And so I did that, and the only other real difference was the wheels. Mine had 17-inch snowflakes, so I could put a modern tire on it, because you really can't get good performance tires on a 15-inch today that you could back then. Some differences, and the other major difference is my car is red, and the original car was white. But I wanted to try to make it as close as I could, but I liked keeping the originality of the car color-wise as it came from the factory. So I stuck with the red. So I built the car, fully restored it in a year, repainted it, nut and bolt, ground up everything. The only thing I didn't build myself was the engine. I was short on time. There was a local guy to me that all he did was Oldsmobile engines. So my car has the Olds engine in it. You could get either an Olds 403 or the Pontiac 400. Mine had the Olds. So I had that built, and that was probably the one mistake I made when restoring that car, was having somebody else build the motor. Because at least if it was a failure and it was for me, I could accept it. But when you pay somebody and you have a failure, this stings because you expect a professional to do. And so we had out the night before. My co-driver flew in at 11:30 at night. I was still working on the car. I threw all my tools in the back of the car, a couple other stuff I hadn't finished putting together on the car, into the back of the car. Head to the airport, pick him up, and we head to New York. Somewhere in middle of Ohio, we're on the highway. My co-driver was driving the car. We were cruising about 110, just cruising along and just feeling out the car. It was late at, 3 in the morning. Nobody's on the road. We just kind of wanted to see how the car was running. And so he took it up a little bit, and we were cruising. And all of a sudden, we're just bang. And then, and the car, started veering off to the right, and blew a tire out at 110, which probably not a good thing to happen. But there was no cars on the road. We got the car off to the shoulder and realized that I had grabbed a spare tire, the only thing that would fit in the back seat with the seats, because they're racing seats. They don't fold, and you can't really, and the trunk was filled with fuel cells. So I had a donut spare off a 4th gen in the back seat. I was like, oh, that's all right, we'll just grab that, we get the jack, we'll just swap the tire on. Well, I upgraded the brakes to a larger, so I used 3rd gen 1LE rotors and a B-body spindle, which puts the caliper out further so it fits these, so you can put these larger rotors on. Well, the problem was that spare tire didn't clear it. And I was like, oh, and it was, 3 in the morning, I was tired. I didn't even think I could have taken the tire off the back, put it on the front, and put that on the back, because that would have fit on the back with the back brakes. But it didn't dawn on me, and I was half asleep, and just said, all right, we'll just call AAA and tow it. So AAA finally shows up, 5 a.m., loads it on the truck. He's like, well, there's a tire shop over here in Indiana, because we were kind of right on the border. So that's really the only place around here. I said, all right, we'll take us there. We get to the tire shop, and they have no tires to fit my 17-inch wheels. Not only that, the 17-inch wheel I had got damaged from the incident. I'm calling around. I found a wheel in Ohio, southern Ohio in Columbus. Like, well, we could drive there, but I need to get a tire on the car to go get the new wheel and get a new tire put on. Do we do that? What do we do? And while we're there, this guy shows up, local guy. He's like, he saw the car, and he's like, I just wanted to check it out. I saw your car. And he's like, what's the problem? He's like, well, I got a damaged wheel. I need a wheel and a tire. And he's like, well, I got a factory rim. Okay, I'm like, well, let's hopefully that fits, the 15-inch wheels. I'm like, well, that's great. So he goes home, he brings it back, put it on, and it fits. It's like, oh, perfect. So now we just need to find a tire to fit it. So the tire shop, she looks at the diameter of the tires I had on there, goes in her computer and says, we got one tire. So she's like, all right, perfect. And she gets this tire off, and I don't know how long it's been sitting on the shelf for. I didn't look at the date code of the darn tire. I really didn't want to at that point. I just needed to get a tire on the car so we could drive it to go get the proper wheel and tire put on this thing. And she puts the tire on there, puts it on the car. It's an all-season, it's not performance tire. And I'm like, it'll get us moving. And so we spent the entire day there. We were there for probably 8 hours by the time we got a tire on the car. We leave, we head to New York, head to Darien, the same start as the 79. We get there at midnight, just like the other guys, late. We missed the driver's meeting, we missed the party, we missed everything, but we made it there, we made it to the start, so we head out. And when we left, I knew we had an oil leak in the car. It was a slight oil leak. And well, we figured we just add a little bit of oil here and there. It didn't seem like it was that bad of an oil leak. Not as bad as the guys in 79, so we thought. And so we proceed to work on the car the next day to finish up the little bits I had to do. We got the oil change, the local shop that one of the fellow cannonballers knew, that he knew the owner of, and we went over there. He worked on it. We did change the oil. He tuned the carburetor to get everything adjusted right, and we head out. We're driving, so we figured, well, I'll just stop at a gas station. I got a case of oil. The only place that had the oil that I needed, because I needed a high zinc oil. We found some, threw in the back, got some zinc additive in case we ran out of that oil, and we hit the road. Somewhere outside of Indy, we broke an alternator belt. And we was like, well, we're not too far from Travis Bell's house. So we said, all right, well, let's see how far we can nurse this car. We made it to about 2 miles from the exit to his house. So not close, but not close enough. Another cannonballer is right behind us. We get in the group chat and said, hey, we need a jump start. Somebody that can just quickly charge our battery up. And well, one of the other guys was there. Because I had, the interesting on the 403 is the alternator belt and the power steering belt are the same belt. So I said, I can swap it. I just need somebody to charge the battery up to jump us so I can start the car back up again and get us the rest of the way. And so one of the guys said, well, we're 5 miles behind. We have an extra battery because they had alternator problems and they had battery issues. So they show up 15 minutes later, jump start us, get us to Travis's, and they needed an alternator for their car. So we're working on our cars. Travis had a stack of belts and we try all of them, none of them work, but he's like, there's a 24-hour AutoZone up the road. So we go there, they had the belts. I bought 4 of them, all of them that they had, just to be safe. Put the belt on, I got the car started, and I heard this rattling noise. I'm like, the valves just need to be adjusted. Brand new motor, it's broken inside. I said, no big deal. And Travis is like, hold on, I'll Google what you gotta tighten them to. So he Googles it, 24 foot-pounds, he yells out. I says, okay, so I take the valve cover off, I crank down and all. It was only the left sides that had loosened up. I cranked them all down to 24 foot-pounds, bolted the valve cover on. Didn't think anything of it. Went to start it. Won't start now. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. It turns out that I had aftermarket roller rockers on it, and they don't get tightened to 24 foot-pounds. That was the factory ones that have these little metal clips and brackets, and you tighten those down, and then they put the pressure on it. Well, mine had more traditional style that you have to do 0 lash, and then you do a half a turn to get the proper lash setting, and you have to do that at each cylinder on top dead center. I had done them all at the same time with none of them on top dead center. So I over-tightened some and under-tightened, It caused all kinds of problems. We left the car there. I took the sun visor off the car because I wasn't going to carry the trunk lid, but I figured I had to take a part with me just like those guys did. Went to California. Picked the car up a few weeks later, towed it home, left it. I just didn't want to work on it for a while. And then the Southern Classic came up. Said, all right, I'm going to get this thing running again, and I'm going to run it at the Southern Classic. Took it to a shop. I didn't like the headers I had, so I had them swap out the headers. I had them fix the intake, which is where I thought the oil leak was coming from. Revented it because I thought the issue seemed to be too much crankcase pressure. So we revented it, put a catch can in, set up in, and we thought it should be good. I drove it home from his shop. Didn't seem to leak any oil, seemed to be fine. I'm like, all right, that was in the fall. So I parked it. January, we loaded up on the trailer, went down for the Southern Classic. Drove it from the hotel to the start, which was just, great. We had finally made a driver's meeting in this thing. Everything is going great. Drive back to the hotel, get out of the car, and I see this line of dots all the way up the road. And I'm like, that's a lot of dots. I look back, that starts and ends by my car and goes all the way up, follows the road I just passed, drove in on. I'm like, I got an oil leak. And I talked to Jared, and Jared's like, how bad do you think it is? I'm like, I don't know, you look at the road, what do you think? He's like, that'll be fine. Just bring some oil, add some oil, check the dipstick every time you put gas in it. I said, all right. We head on out. And we get about to our first fuel stop. And we stop, and the oil leak has gotten worse. And I also now had sprung a radiator leak. The hose going into the radiator, one of the little, and it was just the overflow tube spewing. I'm like, this isn't good. I said, you know what? I said, I don't want to break the car. I don't want to have any more problems with this thing. The oil leak's getting worse. We're leaking way more oil than we thought. And it shouldn't even have been leaking to begin with. So I said, all right, fine. We'll just we turned around and went back. And as we're driving back, and it was the oil pressure starting to drop. I'm like, we're really losing a lot of oil. And we made it back just in time. It didn't go into the red. It was just, but I know it's the oil pressure gauge. But it's the factory gauge of how accurate is that thing from the 70s. So I wasn't too worried about it. We parked it. I said, I'm done. We're done. We brought it home. The curse lives on. The car still hasn't competed and finished an event yet. Eventually, the plan is to somehow fix it. Still don't know why I have so much crankcase pressure and why I can't seem to get it to vent properly, and no matter what we try, but I'm gonna take it somewhere they can figure it out, because I'm at a loss unless somebody wants to comment a solution for my problems.
For the last 20 years or so, I've been working with Premier Financial Services for my own exotic car needs, but also sending friends and clients when I was a car dealer to Premier Financial Services because their simple lease is truly the most powerful tool in the world of exotic car financing. We love it because we get all the great things about leasing, like low upfronts, better tax treatment for business owners, lower sales taxes, but we also retain all the great things about a traditional finance arrangement, like the ability to accumulate equity, trade in and out whenever you want, and always know where your payoff stands because they give you an amortization table with every single lease. And Premier's been a supporter of VINwiki here for the last 8 years, and we love them for that, but truly because the customer support of the Premier Financial Services team is unmatched. And now that they're backed and wholly owned by First Financial Bank, that gives them even more buying power for their portfolio of the most significant and valuable collector and exotic cars in the world. It's also allowing them to create new and more interesting finance options and programs for their clients and giving them much more buying power, which is what everybody is looking for as they go on the search for their dream car. So check out Premier Financial Services right now at the link in the description below to thank them for their support of VINwiki and know that they'll be the perfect supporter of your journey to own your dream car.